In the second part of our series, Ghana's Schools of Shame, Jojo Kobna reports that 7,000 students in the Pandai district of the Northern region do not have furniture. A lot of these children write while squatting, kneeling, or lying on their bellies. The children want the government to give them school furniture so they may learn comfortably and with dignity. Well, very sad pictorial evidence there. Let me share with you some figures from the northeast part of the country so you can relate to how dire the situation is really. Now, we titled this the Ghana Schools of Shame, Northeast region. What do we know so far? Now, let's look at schools in the Northeast region and what they do. Total number of basic schools in that region is 505. Out of this number, the number of schools that are deprived are 350, representing 69.3% of the total number of schools in that region. Now, out of the 505 schools, we have 75 of them that are schools under trees, representing 14.9% of the total figure. So that's how the whole thing is in terms of schools in the Northeast region and how dilapidated some of them are. In terms of furniture deficit, we have 34,290 children in Northeast region who do not have furniture to sit on in their classrooms. 34,290 children do not have furniture, so they either sit on the floor or lie on the bare floor to study. Now, today the world celebrates the International Day of Education under the theme to invest in people, prioritize education. I'll be joined shortly by Dr. Peter Ante, who is the Executive Director of the Institute for Education Studies, IFES. But first, his institution has released a statement. Let me share with you an extract of that with you. The statement says, the Institute of Education Studies joins the global community to celebrate the International Day of Education. IFES believes that education is the guaranteed means to bridge the gap of inequality in any society, support the marginalized, and lift people from poverty. It is therefore more appropriate, the theme for today, which seeks to encourage the prioritization of investment in education. It continues to say that as we are celebrating the International Day of Education, they think that investing in people and prioritizing education should be a clarion call to targeted financing and efficient utilization of scarce resources in the education sector. It is expected that investment in education, both at the private and public levels, would yield the needed returns and benefit. Hence, IFEST will want to encourage the relevant authorities to continuously assess the impact of these investments on the various levels of development in this country. We are simply saying, quote, let the investment in people and the prioritization of education count in all aspects of our lives as a society, end of quote. So we can now speak to Dr. Peter Ante. Doc, grateful that you could join us, here on the news. We just played a feature from Jojo Kobna that highlights education infrastructure challenges. 7,000 students in the Pandai district of the Northern region do not have furniture as we speak. How will we bridge the gap of inequality when students don't even have desks and chairs?
Good morning and to your viewers. Thank you for the opportunity, and we would want to wish the global community and the entire country happy International Education Day. Yes, investing in people, prioritize education. That is exactly what we have to do, especially in a situation whereby we see that resources are scarce, and the little that we have, it seems that as a country, we are pushing it in directions that are not yielding the needed returns. And it is interesting how we are linking this with your story about Pandai, the situation in the northern region, our BC schools. You see, these statistics that you put out, that shows that almost 60-something% of the schools are deprived. That is 350 of the 505 schools are deprived. are statistics that are available to the officials. And that is why sometimes when we talk about we don't have a plan, people do not seem to appreciate it. These are statistics that are available to the authorities. In fact, when we did the National Education Week in 2020, the regional directors of education provided this information at the forum. In fact, recently they did the same thing. So every year, regional directors of education provide this information to relevant authorities, the ministry, Ghana Education Service, and stakeholders. And we know that this is the challenge in this region. So tying in with the theme for the International Education Day simply means that we need to invest or prioritize education. But investment does not mean just putting money out there for the sake of putting them out there. If you look at a statement or a report that was released recently in this January by UNESCO, or I think UNICEF, it states that we are spending 3 times the amounts that we are spending on the rich, let's say the rich family as compared to the poor family. So we are spending 12% on poor households in Ghana in terms of education, and we are spending 3 times 12%, which is 36% on rich households, 20% of rich households in Ghana. What this tells us is that we have people who are deprived. We have people who are suffering, who do not have the relevant educational resources. Yet when it comes to investing in education, we push the money from wherever it is to those who still have got something and they have the ability to finance the education. And that is not the essence of education. So when we say prioritize education, that is not what we are doing as a country. In this country, we are pushing monies in that belongs or that is supposed to help bridge the gap to rather widen the gap of inequality. And that is why schools in some of the regions and in urban areas would have the requisite teachers, would have the needed infrastructure, would have the needed textbooks and other things. Whereas schools in the rural settings, those schools that need our attention continue to suffer and continue to lack these things.
So in effect, we are not applying our resources or we are not prioritizing how to apply our scarce resources, right?
Exactly. We are just pushing money where it's not giving us the needed returns. We are just pushing money where it's not giving us the needed public benefit, the needed private benefit. We are not doing that. We are just pushing money to places where we will not get the needed impact. We need to redirect our investment to places where we will have the needed impact. And those places are examples like the Pandai area that you are talking about and other deprived districts within the country who need just certain basic amenities like a classroom block, like tables, like desks, like one teacher. Those investments would change the dynamics of the lives of the people in those schools, and it will change the dynamics of the society that the school is supposed to be situated. And that is what we mean by prioritizing education and investing in people.
Well, this has been the case for some time. It hasn't changed. What must happen before, we have a change in how things are done in the education sector? For example, applying our resources at where we need to apply them.
In the first place, we need to look at how we allocate the small scarce resource that we have across the length and breadth of the country in terms of educational resource distribution. We need to look at how we do that kind of allocation. For me, I think that the regional education directors are in a better position to continuously give the true picture of how the state of education in their region is. Now, when they do that, I'm thinking that those in authority, the ministry, Ghana Education Service, should devise a plan that would help them allocate resources to these districts or these regions that need these things more than regions that are technically not deprived. That is what we need to do. if we do not have that kind of distribution, not equal distribution, that kind of equity style of distribution, where those who do not have will have more and those who have will have less, we will continue to have these challenges. We also have to now tie in some kind of performance agreement with our directors of education, both at the district level, at the regional level, and even ministers of education, and then the Director General of Ghana Education Service. We need to tie some kind of performance reports to that level. Then when you came, this was the state of infrastructure in this particular region. This was the number of schools that were classified as deprived. This was the number of schools that didn't have this kind of resources. What have you been able to do for the past 4 years? If we start questioning people, if we start putting authorities on their toes, pushing some of these things to their desks and asking them to show their scorecard in terms of how they have been able to transform education from what it used to be when they took office and how it is now, I think people will now start re-strategizing and develop ways and means to ensure that the schools that are continuously being deprived of basic quality variables of education do not continue to be in that state. It breaks my heart to see kids lie on the floor, sit on the floor, and do some of these things. Whereas when you come to some of the schools in other regions, there are a lot of desks. Some of the desks are even not occupied by students. It means that we are not reallocating our resources well, and we need to do that kind of redistribution.
I'm grateful to you, Doc. Dr. Peter Ante is the Executive Director of the Institute for Education Studies, IFEST. So let's do some other stories now. And the special prosecutor has directed the criminal prosecution of the chief executive of the Northern Development Authority, Sumaila Abdurrahman, and two others, Deputy Chief Executive Stephen Yeru Eggman and Deputy Chief Executive in charge of Finance and Administration, Patrick Seidu. The directive follows the OSP's investigations into suspected corruption and related offences at the Northern Development Authority in respect of a contract awarded to A&QS Consortium Limited for consultancy services under the Poverty Eradication Program. Having found the three culpable, the special prosecutor has also directed the Controller and Accountant General to immediately freeze payment to A&QS under NDA's implementation of IPEP until investigations are over. Now let's share with you some highlight of the report released by the OSP. Now, it says that the Office of the Special Prosecutor presents this report on an investigation into a complaint of suspected corruption and corruption-related offences against Northern Development Authority and A&QS Consortium Limited, a private company incorporated in Ghana and operating from Wa in the Upper West region. The report has been heavily redacted to protect the privacy of persons and the lawful trade secret of the private company referred to in paragraph 1.1. In 2017, so laying the background for this, in 2017, the ruling New Patriotic Party instituted the Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication Program, hereafter IPEP, in fulfillment of a campaign promise to reduce poverty, especially in rural and deprived communities, through the allotment of the cedi equivalent of $1 million United States to every electoral constituency. In pursuance of the IPEP, the government created the Ministry for Special Development Initiatives, and it further established three development authorities: Coastal Belt Development, Middle Belt Development Authority, and Northern Development Authority, which replaced Savannah Accelerated Development Authority. The Northern Development Authority, hereafter NDA, was established under Northern Development Authority Act 2017, Act 963, to mobilize resources for the accelerated economic and social development of the Northern Development Zone, constituting the Northern, Savannah, Northeast, Upper West, and the Upper East regions, and comprising 57 electoral constituencies. It is headquartered in Tamale in the Northern region. Now, who filed a complaint? By a written complaint dated 15 June 2022 and addressed to the Special Prosecutor, Mr. Martin Luther Pegbu, a private legal practitioner, requested for investigation into the operations of NDA and the actions of its chief executive and board chairman. The complaint alleged that NDA awarded a contract to A&QS Consortium Limited, hereafter A&QS, on 28th January 2020 for consultancy services for the supervision of some constituencies in the Upper West region under the IPEP. Now, it says for the contract sum of 5,720,000 cedis. However, upon the exit of the then acting chief executive who executed the contract sum was illegally increased to 10,400,000 cedis by the removal of the page containing the original figure of 5,720,000 cedis and its replacement at page 25, clause 33.1 of the contract sum with a fresh page containing the bloated figure of 10,400,000 cedis to make it appear as if it is the contract executed by the previous acting chief executive. The complaint also alleged that the Public Procurement Authority approved the award of the contract in the sum of 5,720,000 cedis on 16 January 2020 and that no approval was sought for the inflated figure of 10,400,000 cedis. The complaint further alleged that though the contract has expired, NDA has gone ahead to implement same and paid about 3 million cedis, and there was an attempt to pay an additional 5 million cedis. All right, so let's bring you more by, we're being joined on phone by Edem Senanu, an anti-corruption campaigner, and Martin Pegbo, who is a lawyer. You heard from that report that he was one of the complainants in there. Let me start with Mr. Martin Pegbo. Let me rather start with Edem Senanu. Edem, you've been at the forefront of campaigning against corruption. By hearing this report by the OSP, what's your initial reaction to this?
First of all, commendations to my comrade Martin for taking this up. I think it demonstrates that citizens need to be up and doing. If our voices are heard, if our eyes are around, if we ensure that the right entities, agencies get to know about these things, there's likelihood that we'll get action. The report itself, I mean, this is just criminality of the highest order. You pick out one sheet with 5 million, replace with another sheet with 10 million, you don't get the necessary approvals, and you proceed to want to execute. This is criminality of the highest order. I mean, I'm glad that the Office of the Special Prosecutor has, as it were, confirmed that this requires investigation and prosecution, and that the AG is being instructed to do so. We hope that such persons, anyone who is really culpable, should be found guilty and jailed. And let's make sure that we set high precedents for the public officers in this country.
Interesting. For you, what do you expect to see after this report has been made public, after we know that this is what happened? What is your expectation?
I would expect that the court processes should kick in quickly, and let's begin to have a reportage on what is going on in court. This shouldn't take a very long period. Indeed, my view has always been that we need a fast-track court for anti-corruption purposes, because the kind of impunity we are seeing now, if you don't have processes that are swift and robust, you send the wrong message to people who think they can get away with these kinds of actions.
Okay. Let me bring in Martin Pegbo. Martin, you filed this complaint, and we are where we are. Are you satisfied with what has been put out so far by the OSP so far?
Extremely satisfied with the output of the special prosecutor so far. Notwithstanding that that office is grossly underfunded and greatly constrained. So, who am I talking to, please?
Okay, my name is Kojo sir.
Yes, Kojo. Now, what happens is that, you see, the Office of the Special Prosecutor, they have just 3 investigators, and the total staff strength is 10. So they are constrained. Otherwise, this case would have been in court long ago. They charged these guys in September 2022. When I say charge, it doesn't mean it went to court. You see, the charge stage is where the investigator or the investigating authority makes a determination that, yes, in their estimation, based on the evidence gathered so far, the suspect has committed the offense. So he moves from the status of a suspect to accused person. So these persons were charged in September. But I see that it took from September to now, another, how many? 4 months for the case to go to court. So it tells you that the special prosecutor needs help. Right now, as I'm talking, some lawyers are are signing a petition for us to go present to the president, calling upon him to resource the special prosecutor to give him the establishment budget. Yes, so there's a petition that lawyers are signing because we need to fund the special prosecutor to make him more efficient and more effective. Otherwise, look, the people looting, they are continuously looting. Oh. As we are talking now, they are looting. Tomorrow they will loot. It goes on and on and on. So we need to fund the special prosecutor quickly so that he can clamp down more of such schemes. Because there are a lot in the system. There are a lot. And they keep on doing this things daily.
Well, so now the special prosecutor, and from this it says that on 1st July 2022, the special prosecutor directed the Controller and Accountant General to immediately freeze payment to A&QS and the NDA's implementation of the IPEP until the close of the investigation. It also says that on the basis of the findings, the special prosecutor directed criminal prosecution of persons named below: Sumaila Abdul Rahman, Mr. Stephen Yerego Engman, Patrick Seidu, and Andrew Kundari. So was this what you were looking for? And for the prosecution, how are you expecting it to proceed?
Yeah, okay. Kojo, this is not exactly what I was looking for. There were 2 more officers. There's a lady at the office of the president called Clara Napagatia. Yes. So that lady, she's like now de facto minister. She approved the payment too. So I was hoping that she was also going to be charged because as the boss, at a minimum, you can't say if subordinates bring you anything, you just approve. Did she check to see whether there was a contract, there was authorization for such payment? Why did she approve? So Clara Napagatia at the office of the president, the coordinator of the Special Development Initiative, I think she should have been charged as well. Then the budget officer, the director of budget, all the people who approved it. Because it means that minimum, if we cannot prove that they were intentionally involved, then it means they were being negligent. Because, you see, we don't have much money. Somebody brings you a PV in millions of Ghana cedis to approve, and you just approve. You don't ask for the document. That's assuming you are not involved. You didn't know. But before you append your signature, don't you ask for? If it were your personal money, wouldn't you check before you approve? So, but, the special prosecutor knows best. So, for now, we have to go along with him. Okay. But Clara, too, has something to answer. Napagatia. Yes, she has something to answer. And the director of budget. Okay. And it goes all the way to the chief of staff as well. Because let's not forget, before I reported this matter, this case had been reported to the president about 5.5 months through the chief of staff. And she sat on the letter. So, or do we say she was also sleeping on a job? 5.5 months. Had it not been for you, Joy FM, this case wouldn't have gone anywhere. Yes, so we are very grateful to you, Joy FM, for holding this case as your baby. And today we are here because of the support. It's actually your case, because I just came to report on your channel. If you hadn't given me the news file platform, the world wouldn't have heard this case. And so you see how the politicians ganged up. They were just going to make the case a foolish one. 5.5 months. So look, the letter to the president through the chief of staff, copy to Baumia, vice president, Nathan, the chief executive, all right, and so on and so forth. Many people, about 9 recipients, yet they decided that this case, it would be a foolish one. It won't go anywhere. But for Joy FM, and then subsequently CTFM, and then, of course, let's not forget Kwekubako's crusading guide. You see, so these guys, if we don't sit up, they will loot everything. They will loot everything. If you think the politician is like you, is thinking about you and I, you are mistaken. It's all about create, loot, and share. Okay. Create, loot, and share. And you see where we are today. You've seen the Auditor General's report. Okay. That's a child's play. More ongoing.
I'm grateful to you, lawyer Martin Pegu and his Adam Senanu for joining us on this particular discussion. Now, to other stories now. Two eminent clergymen and members of the Board of Trustees of the controversial National Cathedral project have called for its immediate suspension and audit. The two, Archbishop Duncan Williams and Reverend Eastwood Anaba, say their call is based on the controversy surrounding the project. According to them, the suspension will pave the way for transparency and accountability to be provided to the Ghanaian people. In a memo sent to the Board of Trustees on Monday, January 23, and cited by myjournline.com, they called for independent audit into the expenditures of the project. The two respected preachers said the auditors must be one that is nationally recognized. Quote, that in the spirit and cause of transparency and accountability to the Ghanaian people, the current Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral shall appoint an independent, nationally recognized accounting firm to audit all public funds contributed to and spent by the National Cathedral. My colleague Joseph Akaple has the latest. Joe, what do we know so far with the call for the audit?
And so we understand that the Cathedral Secretariat, they have already decided to engage an internationally acclaimed auditing firm to undertake that audit, not because of this particular proposal that has come in, but they've also confirmed to us that they've indeed received that proposal. And in actual sense, there's a meeting that is going to take place later today, a very important meeting of the Board of Trustees. And one of the major issues that will be discussed will be the decision to engage the auditing firm. The other leg of the issue has to do with the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice. You recall MP for North Tongue, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, sent a petition to Shraj regarding the identity, that is a member of the Secretariat having multiple identity, as well as claims that he breached the conflict of interest rules in how his company gave a loan. That's the story that we've been told, a loan to the Cathedral Secretariat, was subsequently paid back by the Cathedral Secretariat. And so Shraj has written to the Cathedral Secretariat asking for its comments on that matter. And so in responding to it, the Cathedral Secretariat holds the view that it also amounts to giving some indication or the processes that have been undertaken so far. So they consider that probe and the one that they intend to undertake by way of engaging auditing firm to be parallel probes, which they believe will put the matter to rest for good.
All right, grateful to you. So that's my colleague Joseph Akable with details of that. Now, the Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah has asked the police to declare wanted the school prefect and other student leaders of Krobia Asante Technical and Vocational Institute if they fail to show up for investigations. This is linked to the student protests which led to destruction of school and private properties. He says there is the need for the student leadership to prove their innocence and aid investigation.
The leadership of the school, all the prefects of the school, if they don't surrender, they should declare them wanted. They are the leaders. So what shows that they were not involved? And if they were not involved, what did they do? So all of them, the police administration should declare them wanted immediately and go for them. And the parents, if they are listening, should surrender the children. They should bring all the children to the police station because they are wanted. If you are the senior prefect of the school, why do you run away? What has he done that he's running away? So all the leaders of the school must be put on wanted list. That final decision for reopening will be determined jointly between the Regional Security Council and the Minister for Education. And it will also depend on the report of the committee that will be set up. And the time period we will use to repair the damage that they've caused to property in the school. So I cannot be here or stand here immediately and tell you that the school will be closed for 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 1 year. I can't tell you. It depends on the results and recommendations of the committee to be set up.
Hello, good morning and warm welcome to the business segment of News Desk with me, Pius Kojo. The National Pensioners Association is requesting help from its pensioners medical scheme from the Social Security and National Insurance Trust in order to protect these members. Now, it follows NIT's average 25% increase in monthly pension payment. Now, according to the association's General Secretary, Stephen Boache, the current economic climate has had a negative impact on its members, necessitating the need for support regardless of the indexation. He spoke to Joy Business.
The meeting was to deliberate on some issues confronting the members of the Pensioners Association. General Secretary Stephen Boache commended the trust but called for more policies that will protect pensioners in such austere times.
So, Director, we are saying that we know, and you know, that we are running a pensions medical scheme, our own homegrown project, to take care of our members, our health benefits. So we are pleading with you for assistance. You have been giving us. I think some 2 years ago or so, you gave us about 800,000 to support it. In fact, it has helped us a lot. Now I can tell you that now we have over 40-something thousand people who have benefited from the scheme. And so we are waiting. We know that you will do it. And we are waiting. I remember somebody asked me in Tema that, if then what about the pensions medical scheme? As Director General, it will come. He will bring it. He will come and support us. And so, Director, we are waiting that you listen to us.
Director General for the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, John Oforitinkwine, pledged the trust support for the medical scheme.
I heard your request. You know this is your fund. And if we have any largesse to spread around, my point, and I think my board shares in this, is that it has to come to you first. And so over the years, we've prioritized your needs. We know that by statute, we are only, we are required to pay our main bill. And then any other thing is secondary. But we've done a lot of secondary things in the past. And I think that you should be primary in the secondary things that we do. So I've heard the PMS that you've requested that you made. That is the Pensioners Medical Scheme. We've supported in the past. I will take this on in good faith, and I will consult with my board, the Board of Trustees, and I am sure they will also look at this request very favorably, and in a very short order, you will hear from us.
The Pensioners Medical Scheme is a top-up medical scheme that will address the large and unexpected medical costs incurred by retirees.
Now, players in the agricultural sector are calling on government to grant tax exemptions on agricultural commodities in the country. According to them, the delay by the Minister of Finance to grant tax exemptions will have dire consequences on the already fragile sector, which is burdened with high prices of agricultural inputs. The following report has more.
Members and management of CropLife Ghana, Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana, Peasant Farmers Association, and the National Sea Trade Association of Ghana held a press conference to register their displeasure at the delay by the Minister of Finance in granting tax exemptions on agricultural products. Speaking at a press conference, Executive Director of the Peasant Farmers Association, Dr. Charles Nyaba, said this inaction on the part of government is hampering production as farmers are unable to import the needed agricultural inputs to increase their production.
Agricultural goods and equipment are not included in the list of items exempted from the import duties. This decision by government to specifically exclude agricultural goods in the list is shocking and contradicts the government's own policy of transforming the economy through agricultural transformation. Fortunately, ladies and gentlemen from the media, to compensate for the omissions, the Act allows the Finance Minister to grant industry-specific exemptions based on recommendations of a given sector minister with cabinet approval. Friends from the media, given the critical nature of agriculture and agribusiness activities in the country, on 10th January 2023, our Agric Minister of Food and Agriculture applied for exemptions for agricultural commodities. Whilst we still await decision of the Finance Minister and government to grant the request, our clients and service providers have their goods currently locked up at the port due to exorbitant charges slapped on them
by way of import duties.
Chief Executive of the Agribusiness Chamber, Anthony Morrison, added that they would be forced to embark on a demonstration if the Minister of Finance fails to grant tax exemptions on agricultural commodities.
We are also calling for an immediate action of food security, of accessibility and affordability for the poor citizens, so that those who care to import fertilizers, seeds, and agrochemicals can do so, because livelihoods of over 70% of Ghanaians living in the rural economy is at stake. We also do know and very much aware that government has taken certain steps that does not support the needed agribusiness ecosystem. This sector or this press conference is to address the immediate issue, but we will also want to send our plea to the president to pay more serious attention to the agriculture sector.
And that's it by way of business on Joy News Desk. I am Pius Kojo.
Welcome back from the break. Now, we're getting information that the Ghana Individual Bondholders Forum is reacting to a joint press release released on yesterday by the Ministry of Finance and the Ghana Association of Bankers. I'll share with you details of that statement shortly here. Now, it says that we observe with delight government's various incentives provided to the banks, which among others include the Bank of Ghana's forbearances and favorable revisions to the prudential rules, including the reductions in the capital adequacy ratio and the cash reserve requirement. To make it much more functional, the government will be providing a financial stability fund to support the visibility of the viability of the banks. Now, with the banks onboarding the domestic debt exchange program, the government is set to reach its 80% target. Now, the forum again says this development reaffirms the need for government to exclude individual bondholders, including individuals and collective investment schemes, who account for less than 11% of the eligible bonds. Unlike the banks and other institutions who are to benefit from various regulatory incentives, individual bondholders have no fall to back, no incentives, and will be condemned to shackled penury. We urge the government to stay focused on its responsibility to protect its citizens, and for that matter, absolutely exempt individual bondholders, including individuals who hold eligible bonds under the DDE through collective investment schemes from its DDE program. We maintain that cutting government expenditure and optimizing revenue is a sure winner for Ghana in this difficult time. So, as government has reached an agreement with the banks, the individual bondholders want government to then leave their bonds so that they can keep enjoying them. Well, that's how we wrap up the bulletin. There's more news on myjoyonline.com. My name is Samuel Kojo. Thanks for your time. Do enjoy the rest of our bulletins and have a good day.